So I don't know if you all heard, but there was a huge cameo this week on She-Hulk. I honestly couldn't believe it. They had Daredevil show up, and it pretty much made suffering through this entire season of garbage all worth it in the end. Said absolutely no one ever who has standards. Let's discuss. Our content sucks. Our content sucks. Yes, Queen! Before I get started, I'd like to kindly ask that you hit the like button, and please subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
So She-Hulk begins this week with yet another shallow and stupid case of the week. This time in the form of a character called Leapfrog, who dresses like a frog by the way, who suffered injuries due to what he said was a faulty superhero suit made for him by everyone's favorite quirky character, Luke.
I don't care!
Once Jen reluctantly takes the job, she tries to reason with Luke to get this solved before it goes to court. But Luke feels very betrayed by Jen's involvement in the case. So what does he do? He calls her a buffalo, rips the dress that he's making for her, and kicks her out. If I had the strength to endure this again, I would go back and count how many times either Jen or She-Hulk was called either fat or ugly in this show. At this point, the numbers have to be staggering.
What the hell am I looking at? When does this happen in the movie?
Once they actually go to court, Luke has a secret weapon in the form of a blind lawyer from Hell's Kitchen named Matt Murdock. Now, of course, Matt quickly ends this case before it even really begins. Like most of the half-assed cases in this show, by the way. But this one moment did at least offer one positive thing I can say about this season. I know, I'm just as shocked as you are.
Get the fuck out of here! No, I cannot, it's serious!
Because I did think that Matt came off very charming and likable in this scene. And he delivered his lines as a lawyer in a very convincing way, probably because he's done this before. And honestly, it's a lot harder to find convincing legal dialogue in this show than it should be. Maybe this kind of turned things around for me and places a little bit more of the blame on the acting rather than just the writing. Because through my experiences, a better actor can enhance pretty shitty dialogue. So at this point, I'm thinking, okay, they haven't made Daredevil look like a complete idiot yet, but there's still time left in this 20-minute plus episode.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
There's another scene where Matt is talking to Jen at the bar, and he offers a little bit of superhero perspective on her duality situation. And he says you can have the best of both worlds. You can help people as Jen through the law, but you can also help people when the law fails with She-Hulk. And not only did that draw a parallel with his own alter ego, it pretty much sums up the whole superhero vigilante secret identity dynamic. I thought this was simple and yet surprisingly effective.
But why?
And again, it feels like that has a lot more to do with Charlie Cox's convincing delivery than it did the actual dialogue being written. Later in the episode, we have Leapfrog calling Jen for help because someone is after him. And She-Hulk arrives at the scene in her new superhero outfit, which is finally revealed, and she finds that Daredevil is the one who is in pursuit of him.
No shit.
They kind of fight, but it's mostly one-sided, and it pretty much just boils down to them just delivering quips back and forth as they avoid each other. But once she subdues him, she removes his mask and reveals that he is in fact Matt Murdock. And then she delivers the brilliant dialogue that if you're pretending to be blind, then that could be considered problematic. She-Hulk absolutely loves using those buzzwords, doesn't she? And this is where we revert back to the typical Marvel formula, because She-Hulk proceeds to mock his name and his outfit in the most cringe-worthy manner. It's clear to me at this point that Marvel Studios is either out of ideas about how superheroes should interact with each other, or they just can't help themselves to include quirky humor. It's probably a little bit of both. After this, Daredevil and She-Hulk go to Leapfrog's lair where he is holding Luke hostage. And of course, we have yet another quirky conversation where they argue about how they should attack this situation, whether that be through stealth or blunt force. Because let's be honest, that's the question we all want answered when we heard that these two characters would be meeting. I hope my sarcasm is playing up well here.
You snotty little bastard.
There was a moment here where I thought we might get another badass fight of one guy facing a bunch of other guys in a hallway, except this one was pretty forgettable, and it's interrupted by She-Hulk smashing through the ceiling. Again, this show is pretty much about subverting expectations in the worst way possible, setting up this fight and then not following through with it. Daredevil also mentions at one point that he is a fan of legal dramas, which is more than we can say about the writers of this show. After the fight, Daredevil and Jen talk on the rooftop, which leads to Jen inviting Daredevil back to her apartment so they could bone. Which they do, and afterwards, Daredevil takes the walk of shame as he leaves Jen's apartment holding his boots over his shoulder. We were this close to making it through.
S-O-F capital T. Soft. Huh?
I wonder if Netflix Daredevil fans ever thought that they would see this Daredevil in this capacity. Now, we all knew that they couldn't effectively translate him to this show because of the huge tonal shift between them, but was it really necessary to make him do this? And to make fun of his outfit and his name like they always do with every single character that's introduced? It's actually exhausting at this point how Marvel Studios can't seem to take anything seriously.
Ha ha, very funny, motherfucker.
Afterwards, we get fourth wall breaking Jen talking about how this show is almost over. And I think I speak for a lot of people when I say thank Christ for that. And then she goes to this gala in her new dress, where she's supposed to accept this award for Female Lawyer of the Year. To which they end up giving this to a few women instead, in yet another slight toward She-Hulk.
Fuck me, right?
And of course the women talk about empowerment and being treated differently in the workplace and nobody really gives a shit. And then we have the big reveal, which actually doesn't reveal anything at all. The secret organization of trolls on the internet who hate She-Hulk expose She-Hulk on the big screen at the gala by calling her a slut. Complete with a sex tape with the guy who ended up standing her up. So now She-Hulk is tackling slut shaming apparently. Great.
Message!
She-Hulk gets pissed and starts smashing things, and everyone's afraid of her and the cops show up and point guns at her, and that's pretty much how the episode ends. Apparently the goal is for this organization to turn the public against She-Hulk, and it's working. And that's it. That's all we got. We have no idea who this threat is still going into the final episode. It's starting to feel like they should have spent a little bit more time setting up this threat instead of trying to be funny and failing miserably. Does it matter? Not really. None of this is about storytelling. It's all about the lols. I'm sure they will make a shit ton of memes out of this episode, if nothing else. That's about all it's worth. I simply do not understand why anyone would still listen to this grifter. If anything, this show has actually improved upon the character from the comics. Nobody cares what you diehard fans think or want anyway. These characters belong to Disney and Marvel Studios, and they can do as they please with them. And we will appreciate them for that. If they want to make Daredevil more fun, then there's nothing you can do about it. This whole video is basically some man-baby crying about a show that he supposedly doesn't care about. You'll get what's coming to you, Real Shift. Mark my words.
Y'all be cool. Right on.